Hear us?
Hello. Yes.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn the computer so you can see the room.
Okay. Awesome.
So we're ready.
Hi, everyone. We're talking about the student experience today. And so when I do Skype or do Hangouts, this is usually who accompanies me. So you're getting the student experience today.
Shelly's doing a hangout from Texas. So it's about maybe 1 o'clock in the morning for her. So we're really thankful that she has stayed up in order to talk to us today. So welcome, Shelly.
Well, welcome, everyone. Well, thank you all for joining. It should be very exciting. It's wonderful to be able to use things like Google Plus, and I heard that you were learning about. I caught some of Marcia's presentation of Google Glass, so those are pretty advanced things to use and talk about. Usually, when I talk with teachers worldwide, we're still talking about the use of Skype or how to integrate technology so that way they'll be able to use it with their students' games and things like that. So I really commend you all for trying to go beyond what's normally out there and step out of your comfort zones. I want to show you some of the things that I've done with my students. Did you want me to start already, or should I introduce myself?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, no problem. And so I'm going to show you a few things that I've done with my students. So I do have a little bit of slides. You'll have it's through Google Presentations, and I've already sent the link. So when you click on the slides, you'll actually be able to click and go and see my examples and several examples of the students. So I teach an adjunct professor, so I teach students usually Mondays and Tuesdays, and during the week. I mean Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then but most of the time I teach online, and I travel quite a bit. I just finished getting back from Norway yesterday, so the time difference I'm still getting used to anyway. So it's okay, I'm up. I'm going to attempt to put my Google Drive up here so you can kind of see my my presentation, but I've never really done this on a Hangout before, so I'm not sure if you will be able to actually, but we'll go ahead and try and see if this is actually possible. So I do want you to get a sense of what my students have done. And before I start this, how many of you actually have what's called a virtual learning environment? So this would be things like a blog or a Edmodo or Google Plus or a wiki or a website, a Wix, to accompany your learning. And you can just kind of raise your hands right now if you have an online learning environment to accompany the instruction inside your classroom. So I don't see any hands up yet. A few? Okay. I'm starting to see a few up here. I think right now in this time and age, this is something that's it's very necessary. I was in Norway and I was doing a keynote, but one of the teachers that I was doing a keynote with, her name is Sylvia Tolosano, and you should follow her. She has languages.com, or you can look up languages, and she has an incredible blog with amazing technology and effective. But one of the things she said these days as a teacher, your students need a connected teacher. And then she said the words, let that sink in. And it's really important. It's not to get mad at teachers or anything like that. I know we have so much that we have to deal with already. And personally, I can completely relate to that because I try to use technologies in ways that are really going to save me some time. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that any time they have is time that I actually get to sleep. So for me, it's really important as well. But the thing about it is that if, as a connected teacher, and what we mean by connected is that you're online, you're learning like this, but also you're learning with other teachers. It could be through reading their blogs. It could be just within your school. If you have some kind of forum or you have a place Edmodo group, for example, and it's just the people in your department, and you're connecting and you're sharing with each other, that's really good as well. It doesn't have to be a grand scheme, and it doesn't have to be that you're blogging every day or anything like that. But it is important to have that support system because you learn from each other. So these are some of the places that I've been to myself. I'm trying to blow this up, but it doesn't look like it's going to let me. But so what I want you to see here is these are just some of the classrooms that they have. And I believe in active learning. So you can go and you can see this much later. But active learning is basically where your students get to use the technology and they're moving around. I think it's very important students get to move around. And also when they're exploring. So every time I create an activity, I always think about first the pedagogy. And what I mean by the pedagogy and the potential. So I don't look at the technology because you've actually been through all of this technology before. I remember back in 1996 when I came into my room full of, I was going to college, and I remember I saw this room full of computers. And right away, the first thing I signed up for was microcomputers and how to write HTML. And I started creating my own website right away. I got the big book, and then I just studied on my own, and I spent hours creating a website. And the reason was because I saw the potential. And the technology is always going to change. You're always going to have things like the next Google Glass, and it's incredible when you think about how you had those huge computers, and now this is more powerful than that. Your students can go around and they don't even have to be connected to the internet, and they carry all this learning potential. And so I really want you to consider the potential of this. So there are some certain things that come with this, and it's important that we focus on the pedagogy instead of just the different types of technologies. And so when we think of the pedagogy, and there are certain things that when you're teaching your learners that you think, hey, this is going to be really, really good. And so if you can kind of throw out right now, and you're allowed to speak right now, so for 30 seconds, I just want you to throw out what you think is good pedagogy. Now, it could be something like, for example, I have the word play. That's, I think, a good that's something we want our students to do. So anything that you heard, game-based learning, and you think that's great, then you can throw that out there. But I want to hear your voices tell me what you think is really exciting to do with your students. And it doesn't have to relate to technology. It could just relate to what you think is really important that your students do. So I want to hear some. I can't hear anything right now. I'm allowing you to be noisy. So for 30 seconds.
Online pen pals.
Okay, online pen pals or even pen pals. Perfect example. Great. Okay, what else? That can't be the only great thing happening there at your school. So tell me some great things happening that you're excited about.
About freedom of research everywhere, anytime.
Okay. Okay. Research, searching, anytime, anywhere. Yeah. Okay. Great. What else?
Gamification.
Gamification, okay, that's fantastic, yes. And the difference between that and game-based learning. So we know that gamification is where we actually take things like a video game and we put that into our curriculum and make it seem sort of like a video game. And we know game-based learning where they do things where they play, like Minecraft, for example. Okay, what other great things are you all doing?
Collaboration.
Collaboration, fantastic. That's one of my favorite things out there to do. And right now, things like Google Hangout, you can really have your students effectively collaborate. What else? What are some cool websites that you like, that your students love, that you use with your students?
I like TED.
TED? Okay, TED Talks, yes. Which one? I didn't hear that last one.
Blend
Blend Space, okay, Blend Space is a great forum too. Any of you ever use Kahoot? Kahoot is a really great one too. Students seem to really love that one. It's to make trivia games. Okay, so you're seeing there's already great things that you're doing. Now you could have told me other things. You could have said hands-on learning. You could have said using graphic organizers. You could have said mind mapping. You could have said TPR, total physical response, and maybe that has nothing to do with technology, but we can make it to where it is with technology. And so these are some of the things that come out of that. So let's say you want your students to develop their listening skills, their writing skills, their reading, and all of that is important. Just because we have technology doesn't mean that it goes away. What it means is that we find a way to do it with the technology. So these are some of the fun ways that I've been able to use that with my students. So for example, one of the things I started doing was using comics. So my students actually take, and I'll show you that, where they take different types of literature like Pride and Prejudice, or they'll take comics, stories, or they'll take the stories that we read in class and they transform a section of it, the reading, into comic form. So we'll see what that looks like. There's scavenger hunts, there's QR codes, there's them making online posters. So posters themselves is really good to have students do, but now you can make digital posters and your students can keep them for life. So these are some of the platforms I recommend for students. If you don't have an online learning space, these are the ones that were made for teachers, and they're very, very good. Teachers love them. So personally, I love Google+, but that's for 13 years old and older. Edmodo is one of those that people just absolutely love. So what does it look like? How many of you, raise your hand if you teach very young learners? So learners from the ages of, well, I guess, I've taught as young as 2 years old, so about 2 years old all the way to, we'll say, about 11 and 12 years old. So a few of you, okay? So when you're working with young learners like that, I think that, especially very young learner like toddlers, this is what I worked with. And actually it's very funny because if you go to the EnglishStorytime.pworks.com and you can actually click on it, you'll be able to see where I did a collaboration project with Özge Karagulu, one of my favorite people in the world, in Istanbul. And her and I actually did a digital storytelling using VoiceThread, and that was one of the first global collaboration Web 2.0 projects I ever did, and that was 4 years ago, and we put it in the wiki. So the wiki, for me, I thought, because, and why a wiki for that young of age was because I felt that the students, they could see the themes, so on the right side were the themes, but also PB Works allows you to translate, so the parents could translate in any language. I did video tutorials, but I also could divide it by theme, and then they could go play the games. Now, Edmodo is another one that I've used as well, and Google Communities. I use that with a little bit older. Like I said, it has to be, for Google Communities, it has to be 13 and older, but I found it is very effective. When you have an online learning space, one of the words that one of you said was collaboration. So it's important at the very beginning we do things called digital icebreakers, and you can do that within the classroom as well. So I don't know how much time I have because I know we started a little bit late. So can you tell me how much time I have real quick, because I want to try an activity.
You have about 20 minutes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So what I want you to do right now, too, you all have your phones. You have your phones with you? If you could raise that up if you have your phone. That way I know. Okay, what I want you to do is take your phone and then get into groups of 2, or get either into 2 or 3. And what I want you to do is just take a picture from your phone. You can take any picture. And I'm going to go ahead and share a picture with you. And all I want you to do is I want you to talk about this picture. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you one of my pictures right now. You could do it from your Instagram, or you could just do it from the regular camera as well. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy there. And we're just going to give you about 30 seconds where you can go and you can really just talk about the picture. So here's a picture that I'm going to show you. And that is Roscoe, my pug. He has a little bandana. And the reason why he's there is because we did a little road trip. So I'm actually at a friend's house, and we came to visit his dog. So they're met for the first time, and he had a little road trip. So that's what I want you to do, is I want you to talk to each other and for about 15 seconds, just 30 seconds, talk. So I want to see you talking and showing your pictures.
Okay. need. And so you have one group class where they share.
I'm gonna start the timer. 30 seconds. So here we go.
Yeah. So it's more like center-based. Yeah. Okay.
15 more seconds.
Because on the photos from you Photoshop and put heads into your that's pretty much it. So. No.
Okay, give me 7 more seconds. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and stop. Okay. Okay, and the reason why we do this, one of the pictures and things like that, is because now you got to know a little about each other. And when you do things like this, first of all, it gets your students right away to know something about each other. Okay? I know you're done. Sorry, the timer was going on. But the other part of it is that not only do we get to know a little about each other, you got them speaking with each other. So how much, we have a whole room full of technology there. We did it really fast. It didn't take an internet connection. We just showed what we had. We used the technology in a way. And then we could always go back and tell them, okay, take a picture next time of a pet or a family heirloom or a painting, or you could have them take literally pictures of things, and that could get them started in their technology journey. So I don't know if the sound is that great, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera for just a second. Okay, that might improve there.
Yes.
Did it improve a lot? Good. So one of the things that I think is really good for my students to do online. So now how do we translate this online? How do we get students to do digital icebreakers online? We do what's called a 3-2-1 introduction. And if you click on this slide afterwards in the Google presentation, then you'll be able to go and see the students 3-2-1. What is a 3-2-1? 3-2-1 is where the students can use any tool. And what they do is they say 3 things we should know about them. They say 2, they also share 2 of their favorite activities. And then they also have what is their dream job. Okay. Now for a teacher, since I train teachers, it's usually what's your dream job if you weren't a teacher. And my students right now, they're doing this as we speak. We have where they tweet this on Twitter, and a lot of them, they've never used Twitter before. We collect them on Pinterest, they've never used Pinterest before. But they do find it very exciting. And one of the reasons why we do this is because when your students start knowing each other, it's very difficult for them to be mean to each other. It helps you with your classroom management, and it helps you for them to be autonomous online. The more they know each other and they want to get to know each other and they do activities like this, they're able to read and write and speak and listen with a purpose. And so it seems like they're just doing something fun, but in reality, they're practicing all of the skills, and they're going to do their best job because they don't realize that this is speaking, reading, writing. They just think that it's a way to get to know each other and take pictures and talk about each other as well. One of the things, another way to create community online and make it active online is to also make sure, we need to make sure that the students are definitely part of this journey. When it begins that they're taking over, and one of the things you can do is you can really just have your students go and you can put a calendar, like a Google Calendar, and you can assign students to be in charge of this learning space, to add to it, to contribute, to monitor what's going on. Every single week, you can get 2 or 3 students to do it together, and they're in charge, and it's only for that week. It's important that every single student gets that opportunity. That's going to, A, save you some time, but B, when your students become the center of it, when they begin sharing, when they get to make the decisions, then it becomes their space. It becomes their home in a way too. It becomes their community, and in a community, to make it thrive and be strong, we have to listen to everyone. So it's really important that from the student's perspective, they get to have ownership. Now, for us, that might seem pretty scary. So one of the first things that's really important is that we go through and give them an audience. If possible, publish it. Tell them your parents are going to see this. Your grandparents, we're going to share it with teachers around the world, students around the world. So think about it. What kind of things do you think are appropriate for everyone to see? Remember, you're representing our school. So what do you want people in Finland to think when they see our school? You're representing it. So it's really important that at the beginning you give your students that responsibility. You say, hey, this is a big worldwide audience. What do you want them to think of students in Turkey? What do you want them to think about students in Istanbul? And when you put it that way, then your students begin to really understand what it is to publish online and what it means to be a good citizen. The other part of it is collaborative curation. So curation is sort of like when you're in a gallery. And I can put this off for just a second. The bandwidth here is a little crazy. Let me get this off. And then you can see this later, and that's fine. I'll put it back on a little bit. Maybe that helps a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Has that helped a lot? Okay. Let's see. If that helps anymore. Is that better? Maybe? Okay, so when we think of collaborative curation, these are things such as Pinterest. When you think of Pinterest, Pinterest is definitely Pinterest is one of those tools that where you get to, and it's not the best form, but it definitely gives you an idea of what collaborative curation can be. Curation is like when you go to a gallery. And now one of the greatest things about technology is you can tools like Pearl Trees and Live Binders and Digo and EduClipper and BlendSpace. Some of you have some experience with BlendSpace. You get to bookmark something, but not only do you get to bookmark, you also get to move those bookmarks and make them look pretty. So you can have something, and for your students, that's so important. To make research look like beautiful art is absolutely amazing, I think. So you think about, I have students very young age, even 4 years old to 6-year-olds. We curate things together. How do we do it? Well, one of the things we do is like, for example, Poplet. Oh, okay. I don't know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. But there's things like Poplet, and Poplet, you can do a mind map together, and you can say, okay, we're going to have games, and we want games that teach us about the parts of the body, or we want games that teach us about animals. What kind of animal games do you play? And then they can go, and together as a class, we come up with a list of games that even 4 to 6-year-olds, they can come up with really good games on about animals that they play online. So that's one of the first steps of curation, and it's collaborative. We're all contributing to what we're learning. That's one of the things that I think is really important as well. The other thing that I think is really important is for students to reflect, and I'm going to go ahead and end off with that one. When you get your students to blog, and you can get, one of the easiest ways to do that is KidBlog. Or if you don't want them to use KidBlog, you can use tools like Instagram. I use Instagram with some of my older students. I've taught from 2 years old to 8. And we use Pinterest. And thing is, that's called microblogging, so it's still blogging. With Instagram, so many students are on Instagram, even as young as 9 years old. And one of the things you can do is you have your students, you can post what's called a mission, okay? And I tell teachers, I say, don't use the word homework anymore. Instead, give your students learning mission. One of the reasons why is because I tell you, today your homework is, it doesn't matter if I tell you that it's going to be to eat pizza. You're going to say homework. But when you use words such as mission, then you're sending your students out to do things that they associate with good stuff. Like, for example, maybe a soldier goes out on a mission or a superhero. So these are things that you can do with your students. Now, I can't really see you guys, so that's kind of difficult right now. But what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and think about the ideas that were shared today. And I want you to think, first of all, to talk with your neighbor and talk about how you could, what could be something, a list that you could get your students to create together in your subject. So go ahead for 30 seconds. That's what you're thinking about. So if you teach science, then you might come up with, for example, the periodic tables, like your students could do that. They could make a blend space of this. So that's what I want you to do for the next 30 seconds, is to really talk with each other and say, this is what my students can come up with together. They can help me come up with that we can publish to help other students in the classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and give you time to do that. And then we'll go ahead and end with any questions you have. I don't know if you guys are still there.
and they can actually
Stop
say, hey,
talking.
here's a video of an illustrator point, or here's something else.
Stop right.